So I actually, it's funny you bring it up because I actually counted. This was pretty soon after I left. Call about as of 2 years ago. Over the prior 10 years, I had interviewed 700 people.
Wow.
It's a lot.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Um, After I interviewed about my first 50, I had this wonderful executive coach, uh, a man who I look up to very, very, very deeply, who's been a big part of my life for a long time. Um, and he convinced me to do this exercise. He's like, hey, why don't you take your last 10 hires, write down what you thought after the interview, write down after 3 months, kind of what you thought, and after 6 months, both what you thought and what kind of their performance reviews sort of shaked out to be.
Right.
Um, and then I did it a second time with people where I had both interviewed them and I had checked references.
Hmm.
And my ability to predict roughly like strengths and weaknesses and what would show up on their performance reviews 6 months after hire, when I just did the interview, I was sub 40%.
Oh.
I mean, maybe I'm that far below the average. Maybe I'm not. When I spent time checking references, my ability to predict where somebody was going to land 6 months after starting was a little bit above 90%. I was 90%.
Right.
It got to a point where when we were even hiring a professional CEO for Big Switch, I spent half an hour with the guy. That was it. I was like, hey, this meeting is not for me, it's for you. What questions do you have for me? I spent 5.5 hours checking references on him. I went all the way back to some of his college professors.
Oh, wow. Okay.
5.5 hours I spent on calls just doing reference checks. And so by the time that he started, I had a really, really, really good feel for the patterns that have shown up,